My guest today is a two-time Grammy Award-winning R&B and soul powerhouse whose 2009 debut, The Bridge, cemented her as a force in music. She's Melanie Fiona, and this is Jason Unleashed. Melanie Fiona, welcome to Jason Unleashed. I am not worthy.
Oh, we are all worthy.
We are all worthy. So glad to have you here. First of all, this is a bucket list interview because I have been the biggest fan of yours for years. And I have a story, and I don't think you remember, but we were on a plane ride together from LAX to NYC when you were living in Brooklyn. And I saw you get up, you were eating an ice cream cone. You had on the
ice cream cone in the airport?
Yes, or a yogurt. It was something that was creamy and delicious. But you were looking fly. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is Melanie Fiona sitting right next to me. And then you sat behind me on the flight. And I was like, hello, everyone. There is a legend on this plane.
And I saw her eat ice cream in the airport.
Yeah, so that's our connection. But first of all, how are you doing? How is everything going?
I'm doing all right. I'm alive. I'm healthy. I'm in a very good creative space. So there's not much to complain about. I feel very blessed at the moment. I do.
I love it, and of course, we're all still healing and reemerging from the year and the trauma that was 2020. What did you learn about yourself throughout the pandemic last year?
The main thing that I learned was is perspective shift.
Yes.
Perspective shift for me was everything. I was really able to examine every part of my life and ask myself, what ways am I living which basically are completely dependent on external factors?
Right.
And, it forced me to have to really go in and really tap into these very different sides of myself, which is kind of what exploded my wellness community over the last year, because this is just a big part of who I am. And I always felt like, because people knew me only for music, or one form of entertainment, mm-hmm. that I was afraid, I think, to share those other sides of myself.
Sure, yeah.
So it really allowed for me to tap further into my wellness practices. And then it really gave me space to share that with the public. And that became healing for me and other people. And so, that perspective shift of what is essential, what wasn't working, what doesn't work in this time, I think is really, really important, because I think moving forward, our well-being and wellness has to be priority. And I think industries, jobs, our employers, our communities, our friends, our family, I think everybody has a greater respect for that being the priority moving forward. So I'm just happy that I've been able to live in my wellness more because of the last year.
And speaking of your wellness, I'm glad you pointed that out, because I follow you on social media. I follow you on Instagram, and I can attest your social media, and even on YouTube, you've been so giving of yourself, talking about depression and being a mother and the struggles of being a Black woman moving through the world. Your social media has become this positivity hub for me. I visit it every day. As a matter of fact, I shared something yesterday from your social media that was profound to me, and people were just like, thank you so much for sharing this as well. Like, on my own interview, I'm searching my Instagram. It was something about bear with me, Melanie, because it was really, really good. And thank you for sharing that. Let's see, hold on. I'm all out here. Damn it.
It is, so that I can I'll be like, oh yeah, I did say that.
The story's gone, but the point being, you are this hub of positivity. Let's talk about gratitude. We're gonna talk about music. Let's talk about gratitude, because you resonate with so much gratitude. I saw you with an interview for Up Rocks with Talib Kweli, and your energy, Melanie, is just like, I'm just grateful to be this beautiful Guyanese Canadian. Shout out to Toronto. But gratitude is something that you wear well.
Thank you. Gratitude is really, I think, the answer to everything.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people, we hear this idea, oh, it's gratitude. I'm grateful. Yes, but there's levels to gratitude.
Sure, yeah.
And I think that gratitude has to be the constant in our lives.
Right.
And by making it a constant in my life, and I still struggle, but by knowing that that is the constant I need to maintain and prioritize to get through some of the hardest, most difficult times of my life. And so,
Right.
you know, I often try to remind people it really doesn't take anything to be grateful. Like if you are breathing, you are watching this, you are alive, you have so much to be grateful. I mean, it could be anything that you were grateful for, whatever it was, the thing that you ate today, the fact that you have eyes to see or ears to hear today. I think that when we are able to focus on gratitude, we don't have much room to focus on what's not really working. I think that, you know, that's kind of always the underlying message of what I try to, you know, just relay to everybody.
And I mean, that message is so well received in everything you do. Melanie, let's talk music. Let's talk music. You are a 2-time Grammy Award winning R&B and soul force of music. My dog is all up in the interview. She's like, who's taking my Jason's attention? But your dog's there too?
Yeah, he's hiding out.
Yeah, they always want to be part of the family, part of the party. In 2009, The Bridge, It Kills Me, blew up. Shout out to Andrea Martin, another Guyanese princess who gave us some of the best songs of the 90s, 2000s. I mean, so underrated, but
a legend,
a bona fide legend. But The Bridge, we were introduced to the rasp of your voice, the sultriness, the power, the emotion, the sorrow, the pain, the joy, the happiness of who Melanie Fiona is. Tell us, when did music touch your life first?
Wow. I mean, music has been a part of my life probably since I was in my mother's womb. Both of my parents love music. Music was always in my house growing up. And when I was born, I couldn't go to sleep without a radio next to my crib. So my mom used to play music for me all the time. And I think probably by like the age of like 2.5, 3, my dad really recognized that I could sing. And so I think once they recognized that, it just became this like constant in my life. It just was just the thing that I always loved to do and watched my parents do. My dad played in a band, and my mom used to sing at the top of her lungs, Barbara Streisand and Whitney Houston and Sam Cooke, and like cleaning the house at Caribbean Parents, you know, Saturday is a cleaning of the house day. And we would just wake up to music in our house and our family memories, everything associated, our cousins coming over, dominoes, food, everything was music. And, you know, that just, when I think of my childhood, it's just music. Always.
Right. So you grow up, music is such an intrinsic part of your being. Your first deal, because you always hear about, you know, like, let's say like Alicia Keys or a lot, oh, come on, dog, you don't, liability, my dog's liability. You hear about these artists that go through deal after deal. And of course, being a woman in the business, being a Black woman in the business, there's a lot of bullshit that comes with that. People try to take advantage of you. They see you as, they put you in a box, like, oh, she's got vocals, she can sing. How can we make her this sex pot? Or how can we make her marketable to get the most from her before putting her talent first, right? For you, getting into the business, what was that journey like?
You know, it came with its share of discovery and, you know, highs and lows. And being Canadian, first of all, a Caribbean Canadian woman going into the American music industry was already a conversation. I had to explain what I was, who I was at every turn. So it was a big shift for me because I didn't always feel understood. And, you know, my approach to music was, of course, definitely rooted in Black music, R&B, and soul. However, I was influenced by so many types of music, and the first album is a representation of that. It's got rock and roll, it's got pop, it's got hip hop, it's got reggae, it's got, you know, it's all these iterations of beautiful genres of music. And so, you know, when I go into meetings, sometimes that wasn't always well received. Sometimes people didn't understand, like they wanted it to sound and be like one thing that was understood and received. And, you know, when I eventually ended up signing with Steve Rifkin, what I loved about Steve was that Steve never wanted to change anything about the music that I came with. He heard It Kills Me. He played It Kills Me 13 times in a row when we first met in the meeting, back to back to back to back. And everything else, like he was like, this record is the one. Like he called it from the beginning. But all the other records, like Sad Songs and You Stop My Heart and Give It To Me Right, which all had these like very retro soul feels that I grew up listening to because of my parents, he also welcomed that. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it was great. I'd taken a couple of meetings and I definitely had people saying, nobody wants to hear you. I tell this story on a regular basis. I remember walking into one specific label that I was very excited about meeting. And I played It Kills Me for them. Mm-hmm. And at the time, like pop R&B was really big. Yeah. Like Ashanti was really big. And I remember playing It Kills Me in the meeting. And the guy said to me, he's like, he said, you sing too well. He said, nobody wants to hear you sing that well. And I was like, and in my mind, I remember saying to myself, I was just like, what would have happened if somebody told Whitney Houston that and she did, you know? And I just remember thinking, wow, that is definitely not the label for me. So when I finally did find that label that appreciated me for who I was, it was like, yes, I know this is where I need to be. So it's very difficult. It's difficult for women. It's difficult for Black women. You know, Black women, we are unicorns. We come in many different versions of ourselves. And you know, based off of people's level of ignorance or exposure, they don't know what to do with that. Right. And so, you know, it's really important that you work and go to places where you feel seen and understood. It's really, really
100%. I always talk about value. See, you know, we can always cash a check. We can work for a job and we can acquire, you know, make a living that way. But to have someone see your value, that's priceless, right? Because they see what you bring to the table, what God has given you and what you're giving to the world. And to me, that's way more important than, we all need money to survive. But when you see someone's value, that's also respect of that person. So I'm glad you walked away because you landed at Universal. We got the bridge. Also, we got an acoustic version of the bridge. I have it all of the bridge album. So you were giving us hits after hits after hits. 2011. Team up with your boy CeeLo, Full For You, great record, garnered you 2 Grammy wins. 2 Grammy, right?
Listen, that story of how that came about was so looking back on it now, I see why we ended where we did, because it was just meant to be. I mean, the way I met CeeLo was a hilarious story. My manager at the time, we were at the Soul Train Awards and I loved CeeLo. Like I wanted to work with him. And people kept saying, oh yeah, CeeLo was just there. We kept missing each other. And like, then we walked in the back and his dressing room was there. And she literally just like pushed me into the dressing room. Like the door's open, go inside and say hi. And I was so right. So we connected. And then I had actually done Wrong Side of a Love Song and several songs on the bridge and on the MF Life with Jack Splash, who was CeeLo's producer at the time. And so it was just kind of like a no-brainer. We just, ended up, you know, getting together. They sent over the song. CeeLo was on tour, so we actually didn't cut it together. But I wrote my verse on the way to the studio in the car. I'll never forget that. Yeah. And I got in the booth, recorded it. And I remember when I came out, I turned to the engineer and I was like, this is really good, right? I'm not, I mean, I know I could be biased because it's us, but I'm like, this is really good.
This is a banger. This is a hit. This is Smash Hit Wonder. I
hope so. And then it went on to be Grammy winning.
Your ooh wee. That always makes me laugh when I hear your ooh wee in that song. But it's a bona fide hit, and the chemistry that you and CeeLo have on the song, even though you guys didn't record together, it's still, you can't deny the voices. It's melodic, it's poetic, it's wonderful. It's still on my heavy rotation. The MF Life, March 2012, right? Here we have Melanie Fiona. The bridge was, I don't want to say the bridge was the appetizer or the warm-up for us because the bridge is a masterpiece in itself, but we have a new layer of Melanie Fiona, standout tracks on the MF Life. I've Been That Girl, Rock, Paper, Scissors, 4 a.m. I mean, just a complete different experience with that sound. How did you elevate with the MF Life? What was part of that process of creating the MF Life?
The MF Life was all about tapping into where I was at that time and the energy that I was in. And I was definitely I'm a tomboy at heart. I was definitely on my hip hop. Like, I think people know me as this like singer who sings these big ballads, and, they know this like ode and homage to, doo-wop soul from the first album. And that's what it was. That was meant to be, the bridge was my foundation of what made me love music. And the MF life was the Melanie Fiona life. That was me. That was what I was living and going through. And that was, it was just raw, and I had much more creative control. And I just knew that I had so much more for people to see about who I was. And so, like, rapping on that album and rapping and at the shows and doing collaborations with rappers, and like, that was, it was cool. It felt so much more like current to who I was at the time. And I love the MF life. It actually just turned 9 this year. And
it did.
I did my very first ever virtual like live stream. Like, it wasn't a concert, but like, I went through every song, and of course I ended up singing every song. I didn't plan on it, but I ended up singing every song. And, it was just so nice to like, I'm actually more proud of myself in that album now than I was in the moment.
It's such an incredible album. I remember pre-ordering it on iTunes, and I was like, I think you went for pre-order in like beginning of February. I was like, damn, I gotta wait till the end of March to get this damn out. Fine, Melanie. So MF Life, moment for you, new chapter, new layer. Melanie being raw. Melanie, as you said, being able to have more control over her sound, autonomy over her artistry, and then independent. You say, hey, Universal, it's been real. Why?
Yeah, there was some internal things going on amongst the building, and like where I landed on labels, and I had the option to leave, and I chose to leave, which was amazing to be able to be released, because that's not always an easy option for a lot of artists. So I'm very grateful for that. And I chose to go independent. And even that had its challenges, So I think that, it really all depends on knowing what it is that you want. And I think ultimately having true understanding of what it is that you're looking to do for your career, because every situation has its things, And so, that time though, going independent was like terrifying, but then also really beautiful. And I did make a third album, which I would have loved for the world to hear.
Why didn't we?
That's a good question.
Was it because, was it fear? Was it because, what was it?
It wasn't my decision.
Okay.
That's the general answer.
Sure.
There is an album that was created, and one that I'm extremely proud of, and the most I ever felt really, truly, I was involved in every detail and every song and every, like, I just had so much intention behind that project. And it was really heartbreaking when I learned that it wasn't going to come out. But at the same time, it was a good lesson for me. I think it was a really important lesson to, even then in that space, to recognize that each situation has its own things.
Right.
So, again, and its own obstacles and its own difficulties and its own things you have to try to maneuver. And it doesn't always work out the way you envision it to work out.
Right.
So, what that time and that experience gave me was the understanding of truly the space in which I want to create music moving forward, and knowing that I really don't want that to have to depend on anybody saying yes or no if it can or cannot.
Will we ever hear any of that music?
Yeah, I mean, I would love that. There's a few songs on that album that I'm definitely still extremely attached to, and I think I would love for the world to hear. The beautiful thing is, and I think you hear a lot of artists talking about it now, is that when you're an artist, you just keep creating. And so, it's like there's hundreds of songs that I've created that no one has ever heard, that didn't make the bridge or the MF Life or the third album, and I think that, as an artist, you just kind of were like, okay, that was the time, didn't make the project, didn't go with that one, but I have more to offer. And so that's really what I'm looking forward to. I'm really looking forward to this next phase, all the creative endeavors that I have the freedom, the full autonomy and freedom and independence to create and be everything that I want to be and everything that I actually am.
Right.
And so I think that that's really the beautifully liberating part about every difficulty and obstacle is that I knew I had to go through all of the things I went through to land in this place.
Right.
And there are no regrets, none.
No regrets. Okay, so with that said, Melanie, you said the next phase, right? So what's inspiring the music now for this next phase? What is that fire? Because you created all these songs and all these experiences fueled that well. What's the fuel now?
The fuel is the world. The fuel is people. The fuel is healing. Mm-hmm. I'm married now. I'm a mother now. I've stepped further and deeper into my purpose, I think, as a woman. And I recognize that through my journey of self-work and self-love, that there's a lot of vulnerability and lessons, I think, to be shared with that. And I think that people know where I'm at in my life and they've been very invested in that and supportive of that. And so the music has to reflect that.
Right.
And, you know, it's going to feel very true. You know, I'm not, I've never really I think before I've definitely sung songs that I might not necessarily have gone through, but I know other people could relate to. Oh. And I think that that's also a very important component of being an artist is that, right. You know, when you have the voice and you have the platform, you're singing for yourself and you're creating and speaking for yourself, but you're also speaking for the person out there that doesn't have the ability to find the words or have the song. Just like I've been that girl.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that, why that song is such a fan favorite is because I've been that girl is like, I've been there too.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the beautiful thing about music. So, you know, this time is, it's sweeter because I'm the most me I've ever been.
The most you've ever been. One of the lines from I've Been That Girl that always like that is the realest is when it's all in your name. Like, it's just like, Melanie.
Can't make the payment.
Stop the presses. But again, that such oh God, so many great moments.
Drake, because Drake wrote that record.
Really?
Yes.
Damn. That
record for me. Yeah.
An incredible record. Rock, Paper, Scissors, incredible record. There's just, I mean, like the list goes on, but I'm glad that this evolution is based in your truth, which all your music has been, but much like the story of your life, you're not the same woman you were at 29 as you are at 35 or 38. Like, you're a mom with a son, you're married, your life experience has completely changed. And also music has changed and the way we consume music has changed. I mean, you did put out some incredible singles after the MF Live. Yeah. Remember You, Bite the Bullet. Like, there's just so many, I mean, the music is still there.
Yeah, I mean, all those songs were supposed to be on the third project.
Yeah.
And I love those singles. I love them so much. I think those were really good reflections of where I was at that time as far as, you know, serving the fans of like who were with me from the beginning and, you know, staying true to the authenticity of what I do. Bite the Bullet is probably one of my favorite records that I've ever done.
An incredible video. Incredible video. Vixen, black and white. Melanie, I mean, just...
I actually shot the I Tried video and Bite the Bullet in the same day.
Really?
So, yeah, we shot Bite the Bullet and then the I Tried video, which is like a completely different juxtaposition of like, you know, first video is like superhero badass, V for Vendetta vibes. And then I Tried is me in this box and I'm literally I'm in a physical fight with this invisible force. And, you know, I attributed that video to, you know, the black men and police brutality at the time that it was happening that were being killed by police and, you know, Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown. And I wanted to create that song I used the visual to represent trying to do the right thing in life, trying to be good. And the forces that are against you just keep working against you. And so what's the point of being good if people are going to treat you badly? And that's like the song was written from a love place. I actually wrote that song with Sir, who I pretty much did the whole third album with. That never came out.
Wait. So you were Sir? Was that because you know he's big in Los Angeles? Was that in LA that you guys worked together?
Yeah. We did pretty much the whole album together, and it's a very special vibe. But I Tried was like a really good, you know, indicator of a small indicator of things to come. But yeah, I tried with such a special record too. And you know, it's crazy to me when I think about creating something and a visual piece that represented and was making a statement about certain social and political issues that we are still going through, you know, 6 years later.
Right.
And it's still just as relevant. Like that video is still just as relevant. And I'm very proud of it. And yeah, I'm just really, I really would look forward to the day when we don't have to think about making things to protest.
Right. Yeah. But the beauty of you having the gift that you have is that you can use your art. That's your level of activism. It's funny because I had a conversation last week, Melanie, with someone who was like non-POC, and I don't know how to be an ally. I don't know how to be. I don't know how to engage in activism. And I said, well, there's a myriad of different ways you can engage in activism. And he started writing poems. And I thought, hey, if that's your jam, that's your jam. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, I think that it's a beautiful thing when, as you said, you have a platform, but you also have a gift, and that is your way of showing, of protesting and being an activist is through your voice, and that's beautiful, Melanie.
Thank you. That is the truth. That's how I feel about having a platform and a voice. Is that anyone who does, you got to ask yourself at one point, what are you using? What are you doing with it?
Right. Right.
Is it
100.
Self-serving, or is it, you know, is it giving something back? And I think, you know, the giving back is just the greatest feeling. It's just giving. It's the
giving. Yeah. And trust me, we're in a world where there's a lot of takers and people who will take and not even think about giving back. When someone asks who Melanie Fiona is, we know you're a Cancer, we know you're sensitive. But if someone wants to say, you know, Melanie, who are you at your core as a woman? What would you say?
I believe I'm a healer. Yeah, I feel like this is true to who I am since I was a child. I've always been an empath. I've always had a connection and a deep passion for people and the human condition. And I do have a very good way of bringing healing to situations that need it. And I feel very connected to my ancestors. I feel very connected to God. I feel very connected to a greater power that I think guides me through life. And I feel like that's where I let my purpose go crazy, as that if I can bring healing to people and if I can live in my purpose doing so, then that's success to me. That's happiness.